We will be starting with the fourth presentation of the chapter Measurement, which is the first chapter in your textbooks, children. We will discuss today, right now, starting with the first topic, determination of density of an irregular solid. Now, we know that finding the density of a regular solid like a cube or a cuboid or a sphere is quite easy because we can calculate its volume. But if you need to find out the density of an irregular solid, it is quite difficult to find the volume of an irregular solid. Now, irregular solid, we will take an example which is like a stone. Now, what do we do is, suppose there is a means by which we find the volume of the irregular solid, then we find the mass of that particular stone by using a beam balance, and then we take the ratio of mass to volume, and then you find the density of that particular substance. Now this we are all going to apply in the next slide to find out the density of an irregular solid. Now, activity 4 we are going to discuss, okay? Now, this reading over here, I will do the explanation first, okay? Now, this is structure over here is what is known as a measuring cylinder. So, what we do is, into the empty measuring cylinder, first we are going to take water and fill it up partially up till here, and let's call that particular volume over here as equals to V1, okay? Now level to which the water has been filled. Now what do is, we take a stone and we tie a thread to it and we lower it into this particular measuring cylinder. When you lower it into this particular measuring cylinder, you will see that the level of the water has risen above. Now, why has the level of the water risen above? It goes up to V2 over here, clear? Now, it has risen above because the amount of water that has been displaced is equals to this volume of this particular stone, which has allowed the water to be displaced over here. Are we clear? Which is written over here. As the stone is lowered into the water level rises because the stone displaces the water equal to its volume, okay? Now, if you take out the difference between the final level that has risen and the initial level, that is V2 minus V1. Final is V2, initial is V1. If you take out the difference between the two of them, it will give you the volume of this particular irregular substance, that is the stone. Now, is that understood by everyone? Okay. Now, if you know the volume, you can find the mass of this stone by using a beam balance, and you can measure up the density of an irregular substance. Now, another object that can be used to measure this is known as an overflow can. Now, in this slide, I have given you three different figures, okay? This is of a measuring cylinder again, this is again of a measuring cylinder, and this is what is known as an overflow can. If you see that the liquid inside this was a blue colored liquid, and if you have, when you put that particular irregular shaped object into the overflow can, all the excess liquid gets collected over here. The amount of liquid that gets collected over here gives you the volume of this particular substance that we are discussing, okay? Next topic that we are going to discuss today is relative density. Now, what is a relative density? Firstly, let's read this right up over here. It says, when we compare the density of a substance with that of the density of the water, we get a number which is known as the relative density of the substance. Relative density, which is also known as RD, it is basically a ratio, which means that it doesn't have any units and it is only a number. We can define relative density or RD of a substance as the ratio of the density of that substance divided by the density of water. Now, if you look at the two images that I have put in over here, okay, everyone? Now, it says in the first one is density is equals to mass by volume. As we just said, relative density is equals to density of the substance divided by the density of the water. Now, if you look at this particular explanation, we will find why relative density can also be written as mass of the substance by mass of the water. Let's see how it is done. Now, if you look at this one, density of the substance, can it be written as mass of the substance by volume of the substance? density of water can be written as mass of the water by volume of the water. Now you would be wondering why I have written volume on top and mass below. It is written over there like this because the density of water is 1 by density of water. So mass goes in the denominator and the volume goes in the numerator. Now if you're going to consider equal volumes of substance and equal volume of water, so this volume of the substance and this volume of the water gets crossed or cut, it cancels each other. So what are we left with? The relative density of a substance is given by mass of the substance by mass of the water. Now this is basically the formula which is used to calculate the relative density if it comes in the numericals, if it is sent to you. Okay, now how do you find the relative density of a liquid using a relative density bottle? If you look at this particular bottle which is given in your textbooks, okay, this is a bottle, glass bottle, which has stopper at the top and it has a hole in between. Now let's read the write-up. The first point says that a relative density bottle is a small bottle which is made of a glass and is having a glass stopper at the top. Now glass stopper has a fine capillary tube. If you can see it, there is a fine tube in between this particular thing. This is what is being talked about it. Now when the bottle is filled with any liquid and the stopper is fixed on it, the excess liquid drains out through the capillary of this particular stopper. Clear? Any extra liquid that is contained over here is thrown up by this capillary and only that much amount of liquid is put into this relative density bottle which it can fit. Clear? Now next, this ensures, now why does it throws the excess liquid? Because it ensures that the bottle always contains same amount of any liquid which is filled into it. To have an equal volume into it of the liquid that we are discussing, any liquid that is there, we need to have this particular provision given of the stopper with a hole in it. These are three different relative density bottles that I have simulated for you. If you look at this is as having a glass stopper and a hole is there, and this again the below figure is of a glass structure. This again very clearly with a capillary over here on top of this, a glass structure, and if you can see it, this blue colored liquid, if you see the stopper, this blue liquid has risen on top over here in this particular stopper, and this gives you a better example of how an overflow can works. I just said overflow, sorry, it's a relative density bottle. Okay, children? Now let's consider activity number 5, where we have to find the relative density of a liquid using a relative density bottle. Now let's see, when we are taking a clean bottle which is empty, you are taking it, the mass of it on the beam balance, and you call it as M1. Now we fill that same bottle with water and then we take the mass of it, that is mass of the bottle plus mass of the water is given as equals to M2. Now we empty the bottle with the water and fill it with the liquid whose relative density we need to find out, and then we take out the mass again. So the third mass, that is M3, is the mass of the liquid whose relative density we need to find out, and mass of the empty bottle. Now let's deal with the calculation of the relative density. First is we found out the mass of the empty bottle. Let's assume it to be as M1 grams. Mass of the bottle with water, let's assume it to be as equals to M2 grams. So if the empty bottle is M1, the bottle with the water is M2. So what is the mass of the water? Is M2 minus M1 grams. Now next, mass of the bottle with the liquid, as we said, was equals to M3 grams. So what is the mass of the liquid? That is, the bottle is having the mass as, empty bottle is having the mass as M1. The liquid, we filled it up with the bottle, it's M3. So mass of the liquid will be M3 minus M1, that is the mass of the empty bottle. Okay. Now how do you calculate the relative density? Relative density, as we just studied, is mass of the any volume of liquid divided by the mass of the same volume of water, which is mass of the liquid over here, which is given as m3 minus m1 grams, and mass of the same volume of water, that is m2 minus m1 grams. The gram gets cancelled and we are left with m3 minus m1 divided by m2 minus m1. And using this formula over here, you can find out the relative density of any liquid that we are finding or we are needing to find. Okay. Next topic that we have to discuss is the variation in densities of the liquids and gases with temperature. I've just given you two graphs over here, or two tables over here. The table shows over here with the temperature what is the value of the density that it is changing, okay, whether it's increasing or decreasing. And similarly over here on the y-axis you are having the density represented, and on the x-axis you are having the temperature. So as the temperature, that is from minus 40 to minus 20 to 0 to 2040, you can see the curve that is being formed over here. So this is just for your general knowledge, children. You don't need to draw this in your copies. Now, we know that density is given as the ratio as mass per unit volume, but we know that mass is a constant quantity. So what is the variation is going to be there, changes going to be there in? It's either going to be in the changes in the volume or the density. Now how is it going to be there? It is when you're going to decrease the volume, you'll see that the density increases, and if we increase the volume, the density is going to decrease. That means that volume and density are inversely proportional to each other, because when one of them is decreasing, the other one is increasing. When one of them is increasing, the other one is decreasing. Now, when solids, liquids and gases are expanding on heating, we find that there is an increase in their volumes. Now, when they are increasing in their volumes when it is heating. Now what happens when they are cooled? When they are cooled, they contract, and when they contract, you have the volume that is getting decreased. Now we are not going to consider the changes over here in solids, because in solids these changes of the volume is very negligible. So we are going to omit the solids over here for our discussions. The only thing that we are going to consider is liquids and gases. Okay. Now continuing with the same explanation. Now the increase or decrease in the liquids and gases are quite significant. That is why we are discussing this changes over here with liquids and gases. Now when liquids or gases are heated, its volume increases, okay, because obviously when you are heating something, its volume is going to increase. Now when its volume is going to increase, what happens to the density? It decreases. Why? Because density and volume, as I just explained in the last slide, are inversely proportional to each other. Now when they are volume is going to increase and the density is going to decrease. When the density decreases, it makes the liquids and gases lighter in nature. Okay? Now when they are cooled, its volume of the liquids or gases will decrease. Over here, when the volume decreases, what will happen to the density? It is going to increase. When the density increases, they become comparatively heavier in nature. Please remember this, children. Now this is just a table that I have given to give the difference between density and relative density. First one gives the definition. Density of a substance is mass per unit volume, whereas relative density is the ratio of the density of that substance to the density of water. Now formula is mass by volume. Relative density is density of the substance divided by density of the water. A unit of density is given as the SI unit, kilogram per meter cube, and relative density doesn't have any unit. It is just a quantity and there's no units are there. Now next topic to today's class is going to be area of an irregular shaped object. How do you find the area of an irregular shaped object? You are going to find the area of an irregular shaped object by using a graph paper. So I've just given an image over here of a graph paper. Let's see how. Now activity 6 that we are discussing over here. Take a graph paper and the irregular shaped object, we are going to put it on the graph paper over here, and we are going to trace the outline. Then we are going to take the object away from that particular graph paper and then trace the lines properly on this graph paper. Now what we do over here is, you are having to see that you are having full amount of squares over here. So count the squares which are complete in nature. Secondly, you are going to count those squares which are more than half of it, which is contained in this figure. I will repeat, you are going to count the number of full squares given over here, and then you are going to count the numbers of those squares which are more than half which is contained in this particular figure. Now when you add both of them, alright, that is the area of complete square and the area of incomplete square, and you express them in square units, you get the area that you are talking about it, whose outline you have drawn. Clear? Now we come to the end of the chapter, that is measurement and the homework. You are going to solve question number A, which is given on page number 18 and 19. Question number B, which is given on page number 19. Question number C, which is given on page number 19. And question number D on page number 20 in your textbooks with pencil. Whereas question number E and question number F, which is given on page number 20, you have to do that in your fair copies of physics. Alright.